I want to quickly introduce you to our next guest speaker for today. And while we do that, can one of the volunteers in the room please help me with the chairs here so we make space for the next person? Um, so, our next speaker for today is actually sitting within us right now. Her name is Magda Nica. She's going to talk to us about perceptions versus perspectives. And she wants to tell us that your greatest ally is already inside. And I couldn't agree with her more. Magda is a holistic health advisor in Seattle with her roots in Bucharest and Rome. So, like many of us, she is an immigrant. She is coming from places and she understands what it is to be an immigrant, what it is to migrate from your roots and build your life from scratch again in a new country. She focuses on psychosomatic causes of conditions and inner mental dynamics. Initially, she was studying conventional medicine, and Magda then shifted to a holistic approach, integrating biology with psychology and alternative theories like German New Medicine. With extensive multidisciplinary training, she offers individual consultations both in person and via Zoom to an international clientele. She aims to help people heal holistically and live healthily. And the topic she's going to talk about today is understanding the story that we tell ourselves. Not others, but we tell ourselves, and what you can do to empower yourself. I remember a question from the audience here earlier about, hey, we start fresh in the morning, but then by the end of the day, somehow those things bounce back and they get to me. And I understand what it feels like. And I think this is the very topic we need to hear about and reflect on what she's going to help us with today, to actually reflect and understand what can we use from our inner strength to build on that. This talk is going to explore how you can practice self-awareness, self-reflection, personal growth, and holistic well-being every day of your life. So without further ado, I want to give the stage to Magda. Magda, please welcome to the stage.
Namaste. I'll tell you a story about all of us, a story about each one of us, a story about me, and a story about you. When a pregnant woman begins to caress her belly around the second month of pregnancy, she uses this round, wavy movement. This wave motion travels through tissues, passes through her skin to finally reach a thin-walled sac called the amniotic sac. That wave motion will then reach the amniotic liquid, where it creates a tender flutter that is perceived by the cells that form the skin of the fetus. And those cells that form the skin of the fetus will inform the brain of the fetus, the brain of the baby, that there is an absence of solitude. There is an absence of isolation. They inform the brain that I am with you. This is the first information that human beings receive from the outer world. It is the first communication between someone else that it's not me and me, which is you are not alone, which is I am here for you, which is I care about you. And by the way, in this context, this is the purpose of this event, as Vahati Association is on a mission to offer the absence of solitude, to make up for that sense of isolation, and to make you feel embraced and caressed and heard and seen. And as I said before, from the very beginning, our brain is informed about the connection and communication between mom and me as a baby with a consciousness on my own. During the following months of the pregnancy, months of connection and communication, a strong forever bond is established between mom and baby. There is an exchange between the two of them called fetal-maternal microchimerism, which means fetal cells enter into the mom's tissues and maternal cells enter into the baby's, into the tissues of the fetus. And as a consequence, me as a baby become addicted, quote unquote, to my mom's presence. Time flies by and the moment for the baby to come out into the world arrives, but the act of my birth is perceived by my brain as the first episode of separation. Why is that? It's because my brain considers the act of my birth as a threat to my survival. And as a consequence, the first wound appears. The birth, my own birth, meaning I leave this comfy place where I am nourished and I am protected, to go into a place that is unknown, that is uncertain, through a very painful process, because the baby has to come out through this narrow canal, right? And this is perceived as a wound of rejection or a wound of abandonment. And what to say about the immigration in this context? When we decided, each one of us, when we decided to emigrate, we decided to leave our country, we decided to leave our families, our friends, our village, our language, our parents' home. We decided to leave everything that was perceived as familiar by our subconscious. We decided to leave that form, that perceived form of protection. So the act of immigration was perceived by our subconscious, I mean by the subconscious of every single person that emigrated, as another strong episode of separation that triggers my survival. And what happens is that it reconnects me to the moment of my birth when I separated myself from my mom. That's why immigration is tough for all of us, even for those who don't admit it is. So do you relate on this? If so, raise your hand. I know I do. Thank you for doing that. So, but let's go back to us as babies being freely born into this world. The baby is born, the baby was separated by the mom, and that separation created a wound. And like all wounds, it hurts. So what does the baby do in order to soothe the pain? The baby will come up with an explanation so he or she doesn't feel the pain anymore. How do you think that explanation sound like? Maybe I wasn't good enough to stay longer in my mom's womb. Maybe I am not perfect. Maybe I need to be perfect. Maybe there is a way to do this, but I wasn't able to find it. Maybe I am unworthy. Maybe I am unworthy of love. Maybe I am insignificant. This chatter, this is what happens in the baby's subconscious mind. The baby creates one or more of these limiting beliefs as a band-aid for that wound, so the pain goes away. But under that band-aid, under that limiting belief, there is always an emotion. There is fear, there is anger, there is depression, there is sadness, there is anxiety, jealousy sometimes. Later in life, we start to experience one or all of these emotions, and these emotions will drive me without me knowing why. Why do I get so angry when someone criticizes my work? Why do I get so sad even when a small event happens? Why do I get so jealous about someone else's success? Quote unquote success, okay? So whatever it is, the next thing that happens is that the strong felt emotion influences or impairs my ability to perceive events, people, relationships, to perceive life from a neutral point of view. And when I lose that neutral position, I switch from everything happens for me to everything happens to me. Okay? So the strongest repetitive emotion that I feel will start to pile up. But where does that pile up? Other than my body. Because guess what? We don't have a drawer to open, to fold this emotion, to put it there to rest, and to say, oh, I'm going to deal with that when I'm more comfortable, or when I have time, or maybe tomorrow, or maybe after dinner, or maybe I take care of my child, that it's already born and grown, okay? So those strong, repeated emotions will build a foundation slowly and surely. And sooner or later, a condition, an illness, will appear in my body. And because it's Women's Day, it's 8th of March, I'm going to give a practical example to better understand or to better explain myself. And I'm going to talk about a miscarriage. Let's imagine we have 3 women, okay? And they all get pregnant more or less in the same time frame. They become aware of the pregnancy. Then something happens, and all of a sudden, each one of them experiences a miscarriage. And let's see now how these 3 women can experience or feel about the same event, and what is it that they can end up building later in their body. So let's imagine our first woman. She is very happy from the very instant she realizes she's carrying a baby. She can't wait. She's daydreaming about the day, the moment she will become a mom, or she will become a mom again. So she starts to talk to her friends, to her family. She starts to think about the baby's room. She becomes creative. And then all of a sudden, the miscarriage. And as a result, as a consequence, she becomes depressed. But depression is only the surface feeling. And what is it underneath? Underneath, there is guilt. But feeling guilty of what? After the miscarriage, her mind started to race, and so her heart did. Her dreams and all of her expectations weren't filled anymore. The dreams and the expectations of her partner, her husband, weren't filled. The expectations of all the people involved, the future grandparents, the aunts, her friends, on and on. So, on top of that, this woman doesn't feel that anyone understands her. Nobody gets me. Nobody understands. What am I going through? Okay, so depression is there to only mask deeper feelings of guilt and feeling misunderstood. So make sense? The second woman, let's imagine another scenario. She already has 3 kids. They are all going to school or preschool. So it's the right moment for her to go back to work. But this unplanned pregnancy arrives, and she's not happy about it, but she doesn't even want to go for an abortion. So when the miscarriage happens, she will feel apparently relieved. But what happens on a deeper level? She feels, on a deeper level, she probably feels not good enough at planning. She starts to diminish herself because she didn't avoid that pregnancy. She feels that she was not responsible. She judges herself. And then she starts to call herself names in her own mind. Again, makes sense? And let's say that we have our third woman. When she finds out she's pregnant, she's not that enthusiastic about. She's initially neutral and almost cold about it. But slowly, she starts to hug this, to embrace this idea. So she starts to go for regular checkups, for tests. She starts to talk to her family, to her friends, and maybe she starts to knit a blanket, and then the miscarriage happens. Well, she becomes angry at her doctors. And anger is only the surface emotion because deep inside she feels powerless, and therefore she starts to look for someone to blame, for someone to be considered responsible for the event. So do you understand now what happens in the psyche? The surface emotion, the one that we can pretty easily identify, always masks another deeper emotion. In many cases, depression is a mask for guilt and feeling misunderstood. And when someone feels misunderstood, they can develop later in life diseases in the stomach and in the small intestine. Apparent relief is a mask for feelings of inadequacy and for low self-esteem, which can lead to conditions in the bones and joints. And anger is a mask for powerlessness. And these two combined can lead to conditions of the liver and gallbladder. So emotional resilience starts with self-knowing, starts with self-awareness. The moment I understand why did I have that specific emotional response, why was the intensity of that emotion so high, Why the same identical event triggered a different reaction in every single person. So when I understand my why, I start to build emotional resilience. And when I understand my own why, I change perspective. One size fits all doesn't simply exist because each why is personal and intimate. So, good so far? Should we go on? Now, let's explore together some causes, some of the unseen causes behind a miscarriage. And when I say unseen, I mean transgenerational. I speak about memories that were transmitted to me along with my genes. So, number one, maybe in my family of origin there was lots of abuse, there was physical or mental violence, or both, and that created a program in the subconscious of one of my ancestors saying, it is not a safe family for me to bring a baby. So, what am I going to do if I have that program in me? I'll mostly lose one or more than one pregnancies. And on a personal note, I am my mom's 10th pregnancy and the first one to be born. My mom lost 9 babies before me. So it took a lot to be here. So, case number 2. It can be a memory from an ancestor also in my family clan that I am energetically connected to. One of my grandmothers, or maybe one of my great aunts, she didn't feel safe. Maybe there was war. Maybe there was scarcity. So she created a program saying, the world is not safe for me to deliver a baby. Today, all we need to do is to turn on the TV, to turn on the news. What do we hear in the news? Wars, threats, diseases, and on, fights. So does this look like a safe world to bring babies into?
Not at all.
And the third example, maybe again, one of my ancestors didn't feel loved and protected by her partner. And if I carry the same program in me, I don't feel loved and protected by my partner. And when I say that, I don't say that your partner doesn't love or protect you. I say the way he does, it doesn't make you feel completely protected and covered. So now, do you better understand why our perception of the events in our lives is not a neutral one? Because our perception has the charge of a strong emotion rising from the subconscious. And the subconscious is also populated with programs that aren't even mine. Programs and traumas streamed down the line to me without me even knowing it, without me being aware of it. So our perception of the world is dictated by the unhealed wounds. Those unhealed wounds left a strong imprinting on our subconscious, which, by the way, it is a computer mind with an impressive amount of pre-recorded data. And these are ready to be reactivated as the appropriate trigger presses the play button. I'm going to take another practical example, and I'll try to go fast. I don't know how we go on timing. Generally, vanilla scent vanilla scent is perceived by humans as sweet, as comforting, creamy, pleasant, and it's considered one of the most universally liked smells across different cultures, often associated with warmth and positive emotions. And when some people encounter that smell, it often evokes sense of calmness and happiness. And that's why, because the vanilla is processed in that part of the brain that deals with safety and positive emotion. But some other humans simply drive nuts when they smell it. Why is that? It's because their subconscious associated that smell with an event in the past when something bad happened and the scent of vanilla was in the air. So, quick example. Mommy is baking some vanilla cookies and the child fell and hurt the arm. So what is the subconscious of the child is going to record? My mom is in panic. My arm is hurting. My little brother cries, because there is always a little brother crying in those situations. And on top of that, my father gets angry of all of us because he doesn't understand the reason of the chaos, right? So what's going to happen? The subconscious of the child connects the dots instantly, and the next time he or she will smell the vanilla, will have a strong reaction of rejection of that. So I might have gone longer than I should have, but
We
I would
love
like to
hearing you,
wrap up.
Magda. Don't worry, we love hearing you.
Before we wrap up, I would like to invite you to think about 3 aspects. Number 1, nobody is to blame. Nobody is guilty. Nobody has to be ashamed of something they did or they didn't do, of something they said or they didn't say. When we learn what is behind our behavior, because there is always something behind, we realize that 99% of the time, my pain, my wound is the driver. What do I have to do? I have to be gentle, and I have to be patient with myself, and I also have to learn what is it that really, really triggers me. And number 2, every single human being on earth is driven by their wound. So when you get into a fight with someone, when you get into a discussion, just keep this in mind. It is your wound fighting with the unhealed wound of the other. And number 3, the way I perceive the world is the way I build my world. When I understand that my perception is altered by beliefs, by programming, by emotions, by wounds within me, that is the moment when I change the perspective of my life. That is the moment of deep transformation that it's going to be reflected back from life to me. When I switch perspectives, what happens? I meet different people. I'll go through different experiences. I expand and I grow. My new perspective has the power to change me so I can live a more joyful and definitely a more meaningful life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Magda. For those of you who are seeing Magda for the first time today, I want to share a little story. So when we were pitching Vahati Association to psychologists, clinical professionals, to understand, hey, does this help building a community for this purpose? Does it actually help people? What do you think? We reached out to so many professionals and they were all supportive of it. And Magda was the first person who came in and said, these are the things we need to talk about. They are not often talked about. And these are the questions immigrants have, which they don't know about. And there are so many psychosomatic causes. Even being an engineer or an entrepreneur or a successful person in your career, whatever, you do not know this information. And the lack of information, lack of awareness shouldn't be the reason to not thrive in your life. And she wholeheartedly volunteered her time to Vahati, and she helped us understand the root causes of our thought process, how our behavior is connected with our emotions. And we've been grateful to hear you, Magda, ever since. It's an honor to have you with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here and can't wait to continue our dialogue over
Absolutely.
time.
Thank you.